Jason Gilliam, and I think I see Barry Whitson back there somewhere. Yeah, okay. Gentleman in the audience. Paralegal, what's your name?
Chris Russell.
All right, we have Paralegal Chris Russell. With that said and done, we're going to turn the meeting over to our attorney staff.
Since I went ahead and sent my my notes and things to you all, I'm gonna go ahead and do mine if y'all don't mind.
That'd be fine.
Is that good? And I understand I went by the first group of notes I got instead of the one that came with the main agenda.
Right,
So,
and what we'll do is we'll announce which one it is on
Good.
the final draft that everyone else has.
Gotcha. Okay. Just a general statement. Are we charging $500 for the third temporary tag for a violation, or is it $250?
We've been in the past charging $500 civil penalty for each one that goes over without authorization.
Yes.
So the third and beyond that without authorization is $500 apiece.
Do we know the exact date that the Department of Revenue stopped allowing us a third one?
The exemption stopped, I think, May 27th.
Okay.
So what we've been doing is just the end of May. Anything that was issued, May, and before that, we've been allowing the exemption.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we're being fair to people, that if, because of that rule and none of us got the notice when they changed it. I mean, none of us heard it. So we're all at a deficit in that situation. So I just want to make sure that we're lenient during that period.
We have been acknowledging that, and we've been making sure that we look at the dates. And there are some, sometimes we miss the dates, but once we look at it again, we will, make sure that we allow that exemption.
Okay. Well, I'll go into the numbers, and you can decipher which number it really is. 14, I just didn't understand the write-up, and if the complainant lost the title after the purchase, why would we provide the respondent's dealer bond information?
Respondent closed his business and is still listed on the lien as the lien holder, and they can't get in touch with that respondent in order to sign the release. And so they need that surety bond to make sure that we can release the lien. They can release the lien and get a duplicate title.
Okay. Number 16, I believe we should hold this case over for additional investigation or resolution with subsequent recommendations.
Actually, I received some information after we sent you the draft.
Okay.
And on the final report, number 16, I talked to the attorney for the respondent, and this is, when I spoke to the attorney for the respondent, this is after we sent out the final draft. So everyone has where I've recommended $1,000 civil penalty. However, the additional information is that the respondent has no record of a trade or keeping the key or even parking the vehicle where it was towed, and it was actually towed from there. They believe it's some sort of scam from the complainant. The attorney for the complainant is not responding to the respondent's attorney. So I would probably recommend a closure here because it just doesn't add up on both sides. And now, especially with the complainant. So that's where we are.
Sure, Roberts, I'd like to comment. They've had a fire, and this talked about this.
Commissioner, I apologize. Denise Lawrence, could you please press your unmute button?
There we go. All right, thank you. So I noticed they've been warned for the same deceptive practice, and I spoke in the last commission relating to this problem where it's common. Being in this industry where the trade-in in a subprime situations been negative equity, and there's a lot of this is common practice and becoming more common practice. So I would caution us to dismiss anything on this particular case without further investigation per Chairman Roberts. because we're going to see this more and more often again. I'm familiar with it in my industry because we see it happen all the time.
And, I mean, I can hold this into, we can do an investigation into it. But like I said, there has been litigation filed by the complainant, but there's just not a lot of conversation going on from the attorney. So I'm really not sure what's going on with this at this point, just because of this late information.
But you're
that I
okay with
received.
closing it?
I'm okay with closing it.
Okay.
Because I think there's going to be an issue of trying to figure out what actually happened with the complainant, and whether or not that's, legit information that we're getting.
All right.
You're going to close it with a $1,000 fine? Is that what we're recommending?
No, we would just close it.
Just close it without further investigation?
Right. Unless the commission wants.
But it's being litigated,
It's being litigated.
so it's going to come out. Something's going to get handled about it.
And I'm constantly in contact with this attorney, because we've had some issues with this respondent lately, and they are clearing things up, and we're working with them to clear everything up. So I will probably get some type of information on this, and if there's something that that maybe we need to reopen this case or something like that, we can also do that.
I'm just making a note that about this particular situation, not necessarily this one. I've spoken before. This is becoming a common practice. I personally have been involved in 2 situations where we've litigated and actually won. It's a common practice, becoming more and more of a problem. It's very deceptive, and that's illustrated here. Maybe not completely on this one, but it's happening. I just want to make a note. When this does come up again, it is going to become more and more of a problem for the commission to deal with. Okay.
Commission all agree that the recommendation from the staff is to close it? Okay.
Number 28, I would recommend to send a letter of warning to both the dealer and your manufacturer, so they both know the requirements under Tennessee law for display of and sale of new vehicles.
And that will be amended.
Okay, thank you. Number 37, anybody else got any comment on that one? Okay. Number 37, there are a lot of disputed facts in this case without resolution. To close, in my opinion, is additional investigation warranted? And on my the final draft may have more in there. I didn't read it.
I think that's mine. Oh yeah, that is mine. This one is kind of along the lines of what we spoke about. The information from the complainant is not, I don't think is 100% correct. Based on what the respondent said, they have tried to give this car back. They have fixed the car. They have tried to have the complainant pick it up, and the complainant has basically refused to pick it up. I think it's more of the complainant cannot afford the vehicle anymore. And so that's why I recommended to close. It was just, I know there was a lot of disputed facts, but just the information that I received, it just doesn't add up.
Mr. Chairman Roberts, how do y'all feel? Okay?
I think closing is okay. Yeah.
Okay. Number 43, I would recommend flagging in the file in addition to closing the complaint due to the licensee neglecting to sign the agreed citation. In other words, so it would appear in his disciplinary history.
And I agree. Closing flag is fine.
Okay. Number 54, please check to make sure the third temporary tag was issued after the department rescinded their approval of 3 tags.
And I looked this one over again, and I read the date wrong. And so I would recommend to close this one. It
Okay.
was in the exemption period.
It was?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The month and the date were switched.
Yeah. Okay. 57, flag the file in case the motor vehicle dealer ever reapplies for a license. Obviously, the surety bond will be insignificant or insufficient with multiple complaints having been filed.
And I'm good with closing flag on that one too.
Okay. Anybody else? I don't mean to rush through these, but,
No, you're good.
okay. Number 68, please explain the facts more completely in this case. The reference to the MCO, you meant MSO, didn't you?
It is MSO, yes.
Okay. Okay. Ordinarily, a buyer receives a title, and so,
And that this complaint is more of a third-party warranty issue and
Okay.
and not dealing with the respondent.
okay,
So I would recommend close on that one.
okay. Number 70, should this complaint be referred to the auto theft unit at the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security?
I would probably agree with that. There's just not a lot of information that we've been supplied, but these are allegations of criminal activity, and of course, I mean that needs to go to another department. So I'm okay with referring that.
I agree with Chairman Roberts. Also, if you refer back to case number 30, I think that one should be as well reported the same. Similar circumstances, and we're dealing in an environment now where we're having cars stolen every day. A lot in Shelby County. We just had 7 stolen recently the last few days from one of our auctions, and they all showed up in a chop shop down in Texas. So I think any lead we get that could point authorities in the right direction to mitigate these chop shops from facilitating theft would benefit not only the consumers but the dealers as well.
Okay. Number 73, in addition to the recommendation, I would also refer to the appropriate county court clerk. Is that good?
We'll amend that.
Okay. And let's see here, number 80, there are several examples of the marketplace scam. Should the Motor Vehicle Commission discuss these complaints with the Attorney General and the Public Information Officer for the department seeking a consumer advisory or public service announcement?
And your number 80 is actually number 78
Okay.
on the final draft. I think that topic is something that the commission should probably want to get with executive director to discuss.
Okay.
But that's just something that I think the commission needs to talk to executive director.
Okay. Number 89, I don't know what it's going to appear in.
It's 87.
87. In addition to the recommendation, I would propose referring to the appropriate city officials to make sure that a business license gets issued.
Okay.
Okay? Number 90, in addition to closing both complaints, I would flag the file in case the dealer ever reapplied for a license.
That is number 88 on the final, and I'm good with closing flag also.
Okay. Number 93 says no. I've got no write-up or recommendation.
That one's just been removed.
It has. Okay, gotcha. All right, 98. I don't know what that number is.
Number 95.
95. Okay. In addition to the recommendation, I would also refer to the Department of Revenue in the appropriate county clerk.
Okay.
Okay. Number 101, I thought this was well written and reasoned write-up and recommendation. So want to give you
Thank you.
a compliment where they're out there. And 106, please clarify the last sentence of the write-up. Now, what number is it?
And that one's been removed.
It has, okay.
Yeah, we're going to
Gotcha.
be presenting that at the next meeting.
Gotcha. 113, what number is it?
108.
108. Another example of marketplace scam, possible PSA or consumer advisory.
That's the same as my previous responses.
Yeah.
Speak with the executive director.
Okay. And number 125, it appears the respondent is a Tennessee dealer. The write-up mentions the seller is an Alabama dealer. Can you explain that?
The Alabama dealer was the seller at the auction where the respondent bought the vehicle.
Okay. Okay.
And I still recommend a letter of warning for late delivery.
Okay. We good with that?
Good.
Okay. Number 130,
Which is 120.
120. I think we accidentally put the name of on the
And that's
report.
removed.
Okay, good.
Thank
Okay.
you for
No
that.
big deal. I just wanted to call it to your attention. 136 and 137 is my final ones. Y'all are probably glad I'm getting finished. But it appears it's the same individual. I might suggest holding the civil penalty in abeyance and flagging the file in case that person applies for a license in the future.
And that is 126 and 127.
Okay.
We can't flag this person because they're unlicensed.
Okay.
But I know the name very well.
Yeah.
So if that name was to pop up, like I said, I could probably reopen these cases.
Sure.
Or also, if they were to apply for licensure, we can do something about it then.
Should we send this to the Department of Revenue?
We can, but I just don't. I don't know if they would actually investigate
from
this.
knowing?
But I mean, I can always refer it, but
Yeah.
that would be up to the commission. I just recommend closing this one, just
Okay.
based on the information that we have now.
Yeah. And you know why I said that about revenue? Because it looks like it's tax evasion a little bit with the
There's,
even
there's a
trade.
lot of gifting, but
Yeah. So anyway, y'all okay with that?
Good.
Just closing it? Okay. Well, that's all I've got. We are actually doing, we got 10 minutes.
Good. Can I
Yeah.
check you? Okay. I had a few that I just was noting. This is case number 33. Dealt with this in the as well. This is Commissioner Norton. Dealing with auctions and out-of-state entities coming in and allowing out-of-state license to enter in auctions and purchase vehicles. It seems to be causing a problem, as what you see on this case, number 33. And I'm assuming this is a retail transaction that we're talking about here. And its staff recommended sending a notice to the Tennessee Auto Auctions requesting to terminate this particular respondent and all their buyers. My question to the staff is, this is a common problem. Is there something we can do to identify this situation from these fly-by-night licensing situations that come into our state and purchase vehicles under the pretense of being a wholesale dealer?
And, I've thought about that, and it's something that I think the director and legal can discuss further. But the only idea that I've come up with so far is having communication with the auctions in Tennessee and reminding them that there's no such thing as a wholesale dealer licensed in Tennessee. And I've talked to some of the auctions just during investigations of other cases and this one, and they're more than willing to work with us. They want to do things the right way. So I think that if there was some communication, that it would probably, help with this situation. So if that's something the commission would like us to work on, then the director and legal can work on coming up with some sort of communication. And if the commission wants to see it first, or we can just send it directly.
I mean, I'm very familiar. We have 9 auctions, and I see this activity, and it's not dealt with directly, and it's something whatever chairman feels like we need to address as far as from our position to meet with the staff or discuss it with the director to determine what would be the best suggestion from the commission.
Maybe we just meet. Discuss it further.
So then I'll follow up with everyone on that.
Sure.
Because
Thank
I
you.
agree.
Sounds
I've
good.
seen it enough that
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Any others?
Over the one I had. How about you, Commissioner Galvin? You normally have something now.
Commissioner Galvin, case 55, I just want to make sure that we are going to authorize the formal hearing on this complaint.
Yes, we are. We're going to be filing for a formal hearing on this one. It is, yes.
And on case number 46, can you really go in detail to explain this case?
This one, the complainant was alleging that they pulled their credit without their consent. They advertised a down payment in connection with an extension of consumer credit. And then during the credit transaction, they didn't tell the complainant it was an attempt to collect the debt and failed to disclose it was an attempt to collect the debt. And this complainant went on to list numerous UCC rules, and the respondent provided everything that looked legit, that the complainant signed everything, all the notices. They knew exactly what they were signing. It was explained to them what they were doing when they filled out a credit application. Everything looked like it was done properly. It just sounded like the complainant just didn't want to get into that transaction, wanted to nullify the contract, and
It's a he say, she say deal.
And has been harassing the respondent, showing up with a police officer, and the police officer just said, "Look, this is a civil thing, and there's nothing criminal here." So that's why I recommend it close. There was a lot of information that that just showed that the respondent did everything properly in this transaction.
I'm good with that.
Any other commissioner has any question about the legal report? I don't have anything else, so with that being done, I guess we can adopt the report. Do we have a motion to adopt the report subject to the full?
Make the motion.
Okay, motion been made by Chairman Roberts to adopt the report subject to the full committee.
Second.
Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Norton. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. Ayes have it. So that's conclude our motor vehicle.
We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to reconvene and get the quarterly meeting started promptly at 9. And if Executive Director Lawrence will call the roll, establish a quorum.
I will do so. Chairman Roberts
Here?
is present. Commissioner Barker is present. Commissioner Galvin
Here.
is present. Commissioner Jackson is present. Commissioner Kramer
Here.
is present. Commissioner Levy is present. Commissioner Lee
Here.
is present. Commissioner Melton is present. Commissioner Norton
Here.
is present. Commissioner Vaughn is present. Commissioner West is present. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum of 11 members.
Meeting notice, we've sent that out. And do we have to vote on that?
I just need to read it.
Okay.
This meeting's date, time, and location have been noticed on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission website. Additionally, the agenda for this month's meeting have been posted on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission's website since October 21st. This meeting has also been noticed on the tn.gov website.
Right. Anyway, next on the agenda, do we need to vote or do anything different? I thought you were looking at me like I was missing something. Anyway, on the next item is we're going to do something I've never done before, and that's we're going to have a rulemaking hearing. And I'm going to turn it over at this time to Maria Bush, that's Associate General Counsel.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Roberts, and good morning, Commission members. So if you'll bear with me on this, a lot of the rulemaking hearing is scripted. It is a lot of things are required by statute, so we'll just go through the process and get all of this on record and go ahead and give the public an opportunity to comment on this rulemaking hearing. Before we get started, I do want to say to any members of the public, there is a sign-in sheet if you would like to comment on this rule, and I also have a copy of this rule, the red line. If anybody in the audience would like to view it, Commission members, you should have it on your iPads. Okay, thank you. Okay, this rulemaking hearing is called to order. My name is Maria Bush. I serve as Associate General Counsel in the Department of Commerce and Insurance, Division of Regulatory Boards, and I represent the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission. Executive Director Lawrence, would you please introduce yourself and the Commission members present today?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I'm Executive Director Denise Lawrence, Executive Director of the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission, and with us today we have Chairman Roberts, Commissioner Barker, Commissioner Galvin, Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Kramer, Commissioner Levy, Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Melton, Commissioner Norton, Commissioner Vaughn, Commissioner West.
Great, thank you. Today is Tuesday, October 26, 2021. This rulemaking hearing is taking place pursuant to TCA 45204 in Room 1A of the Davy Crockett Tower, 500 James Robertson Parkway, Nashville, Tennessee. The purpose of this rulemaking hearing is to solicit comments on proposed rules. This rule amendment adds language to the definition, advertising, license fee, and auction requirement sections of the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission rules. So at this time, I will just go through a plain language explanation of what this rule does. The price advertising section of the rule will have language added stating that advertisements for motor vehicles must include factory-installed options and dealer-installed accessories in the advertised price. Furthermore, there is a provision requiring that new motor vehicles must include the manufacturer's suggested retail price as well as fees associated with any factory-installed options, factory transportation costs, and any dealer-installed accessories. This rule requires advertised prices to state that optional equipment selected by the purchaser, the cost of any additional fees described under the Commission statute, including any dealer-imposed fee, and state and local taxes, tags, registration, and title fees are not included in the advertised price. This rule adds language in the license fee section stating that dealership licenses are subject to a reinspection fee amounting to the cost incurred by the Commission from the reinspection. The fee assessed will not exceed $400. This provision applies in instances where the licensee's actions or inactions require an inspector to be sent to the dealership location more than once. Finally, this amendment requires automobile auction licensees to have an auto auction license from the Motor Vehicle Commission and a principal auctioneer license from the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission. This provision is due to recent changes in the auctioneer statutory scheme. A rule is defined as an agency statement of general applicability that implements or prescribes law or policy or describes the procedures or practice requirements of the agency. Proposed rules are filed with the Office of the Secretary of State. Notice is given to the public for comment, and a rulemaking hearing is held. Upon conclusion of the hearing and adoption of the proposed rules, the rules are forwarded to the Attorney General's Office for review of legality. If approved, they are filed with the Secretary of State, which is responsible for publication, and the Government Operations Committee of the General Assembly. The rules must stay in the Secretary of State's office for 90 days, the end of which time will be the effective date. As I mentioned earlier, those members of the public wishing to speak may sign up at the table at the back of the room. Comments will be accepted from persons who have signed up or have emailed their name in advance. The notice of rulemaking hearing included the entire text of the proposed rules and was published on the Tennessee Administrative Register website on September 3rd, 2021. As the agency hears public comments on the proposed rules, I reserve the right to limit such comments if they become repetitive. I will summarize the substance of the proposed rules into the record. So earlier I did the explanation, but now I'll go through and list the rule number and what that language will look like. So 0960-01-.01 definitions is amended by adding the terms factory installed options, the term dealer installed accessories, and the term factory transportation cost. Factory installed options includes the cost of any optional equipment installed by the manufacturer physically attached on a motor vehicle upon delivery to the dealer, and shall also mean the cost of any item as described in 15 U.S.C. 1232 F2. The term dealer installed accessories includes the cost of any optional equipment or accessories installed by the motor vehicle dealer physically attached on a motor vehicle at the time it is advertised for sale. The term factory transportation cost includes the cost of the transportation of the motor vehicle to the location of the motor vehicle dealer, and shall also mean the cost of any item as described in 15 U.S.C. 1232 F3. Moving on to the next section, 0960-01-12, advertising of motor vehicles. 4A1 is amended to include that the advertised price will be any factory installed options and dealer installed accessories. It requires that new motor vehicles advertised price include the MSRP, any factory installed options, factory transportation costs, and any dealer installed accessories. It requires that the advertisement shall state the following are not included in the advertised price: the cost of optional equipment selected by the purchaser, the cost of any additional fees, to include dealer-imposed fee by any name, and state and local taxes, tags, registration, and title fees. Lastly, this section requires that all additional fees shall be separately listed and described, and state the amount in a clear and conspicuous manner. And paragraph 4A4 is amended to state that to all consumers is struck, and for which all consumers qualify is added to that paragraph. And paragraph 5 of that section states that MSRP or as reflected on the Monroney label. So that relates earlier to what we described in a 4A1 and 2. Moving on to license fees. This section is where a licensee fails to be present for reinspection, and so this allows the commission to recapture those fees from that licensee if the inspector shows up and they are not present. That fee will not exceed $400. And lastly, in the automobile auction minimum requirements, this is 0960-01-.16. It requires that licensed automobile auctions shall have on its premises a valid auto auction license from the Motor Vehicle Commission, and that the automobile auction must obtain and have displayed on its premises a valid principal auctioneer license from the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission. So that concludes the amendments to the rules. Bear with me. Do any of the commissioners have anything they'd like to add on these? Okay. So this was sent out to via email to all of the individuals who are signed up to receive notifications from the commission, and it was also posted on the Secretary of State's website since September 3rd. And so we did receive a comment from the Tennessee, let me pull it up, I'll get the name right, the Tennessee Automotive Association. We received a comment from Bob Weaver. And he can't be with us here today, but I will read that into the record. Dear Commission members, on behalf of the Tennessee Automotive Association, which is comprised of more than 10 members as set forth in TCA 45201, and the 21,000 Tennessee men and women our members employ, we respectfully support the proposed rule changes as filed. We have followed the thoughtful discussions of the Rules Subcommittee and the deliberations of the full Commission. We concur in their recommendations. We endorse these changes as consumer-friendly, as well as enhancing the ability of motor vehicle dealers to advertise fairly, truthfully, and transparently. As revised, these rules will allow consumers to better compare price advertising of cars and trucks while allowing Tennessee licensees to compete in the regional marketplace and not be placed at a competitive disadvantage. It is unfortunate that I had an unavoidable conflict today that permits me from personally delivering these remarks on the record. However, our support for these thoughtful revisions is without hesitation or reservation. Please adopt the proposed rule changes as filed. Respectfully submitted, Robert Weaver, Jr., President of the Tennessee Automotive Association. At this time, the Commission members, you may respond to Mr. Weaver's comments on record or discuss anything that was mentioned in his letter.
I think it was well stated, so we can move on.
Great. Director Lawrence, were there any other written comments received by the Commission prior to this meeting?
No, we did not receive additional comments.
Thank you. Are there any public comments from those present at today's meeting? Okay, thank you. Being that there are no comments from the public, I'll just give you all one more opportunity. If there's nothing else that needs to be said, or if you would like to make comments, then you're free to do so. And if not, we will move on.
Yes, it does.
So
Are we ready for that?
we actually require several motions, and so I'll walk you through. Statutorily, we have to adopt several statements. So we'll get to that in just a second. So this will conclude just the opportunity for any comments from the public or commission. Okay. So lastly, there are several measures I will need to adopt by motion and roll call vote as required by TCA 45222. The first is the regulatory flexibility addendum. You all received this in the rulemaking packet prior to the hearing, and you should have it on your iPads. I will read the sum of, it's a short statement, and I'll read that into the record. Pursuant to TCA 45401 through 45404, prior to initiating the rulemaking process, all agencies shall conduct a review of whether a proposed rule affects small businesses. The proposed rules will not affect small businesses directly. The rule amendment updates requirements that licensees must adhere to rules that will be implemented across all dealers, manufacturers, and licensees. The board foresees minimal, if any, impact to consumers with the promulgation of the proposed rule. An exemption for small businesses would not be beneficial. So I will need a motion and a roll call vote on that.
So moved.
Further discussion? Executive Director Lawrence, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. A motion was made by Commissioner Vaughn, seconded by Commissioner Melton to adopt the regulatory flexibility addendum. Commissioner Barker? Yes. Commissioner Galvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer? Yes. Commissioner Levy?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee?
Yes.
Commissioner Melton? Yes. Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yes.
Commissioner West? And Chairman Roberts.
Yes.
The motion is adopted.
Thank you. And I should have done this before, but I do need to adopt the hearing rules language as it was stated on the record and as it is provided to you all today.
Second.
Further discussion? Executive Director, will you call the roll again?
A motion to adopt the rules language as presented by Maria. Well, the motion was made by Commissioner Lee and seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. Commissioner Barker? Yes. Commissioner Galvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson? Yes. Commissioner Kramer?
Yes.
Commissioner Levy?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee? Yes. Commissioner Melton? Yes. Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Roberts.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Only have 2 more of those to do. So, next, I need to adopt the impact on local government statement pursuant to TCA 45228. The Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission foresees no impact on local governments. I need a motion and a roll call, please.
Further discussion? Executive Director Lawrence, will you call the roll?
A motion to adopt the impact statement on local government. Commissioner Barker? Yes. Commissioner Galvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer?
Yes.
Commissioner Levy? Yes. Commissioner Lee?
Yes.
Commissioner Melton? Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Roberts.
Yes.
The motion is adopted.
Okay, finally, I have the Joint Government Operations Committee information. These are questions and answers. It's A through E. This is also included in the packet that was sent to you all in advance. If you have any comments on this or questions, I'm happy to answer. And just for the record, all agencies, upon filing a rule, must also submit the statement pursuant to TCA 45226I1. And that is the additional information required by the Joint Government Operations Committee. So this is our last motion and roll call vote to adopt.
Second.
Further discussion? Executive Director, will you call the roll again?
Yes, this motion is to adopt the additional information provided to the Government Operations Committee. Commissioner Barker?
Yes.
Commissioner Galvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson? Yes. Commissioner Kramer?
Yes.
Commissioner Levy? Yes. Commissioner Lee?
Yes.
Commissioner Melton? Yes. Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Roberts.
Yes.
The motion is adopted.
Great. Thank you all for your patience and cooperation. Following this hearing, the rules will be put on rulemaking filing form and submitted to the Governor's Office and the Attorney General's Office for review and approval. Once the Attorney General's signature is obtained, these are filed with the Secretary of State and generally become effective 90 days from the date of filing. I will go to the Joint Government Operations Committee to present on these rules. And that concludes this rulemaking hearing. Thank you all for being here and for your cooperation.
Thanks to the staff for all they do on this. This is a lot of work, a lot of homework. So you all did a great job.
Bring it back over to me.
Yes, I will say I'll let our court reporter pack up if that's okay, and then we can get might have Erica or Stewart come up for the rest of the meeting. But thank you all. I appreciate it.
Right. The agenda for the commission meeting today. What's your pleasure on the agenda?
Commissioner Jackson, motion that we adopt.
Second.
Further discussion? Do we need a roll call vote or a plural vote?
Let's go ahead and do a roll call, just to
Okay.
be safe.
Okay, please do.
The motion is to adopt the agenda. Commissioner Barker?
Yes.
Commissioner Galvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson? Yes. Commissioner Kramer?
Yes.
Commissioner Levy? Yes. Commissioner Lee?
Yes.
Commissioner Melton? Yes. Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Roberts.
Yes.
The agenda is adopted.
All right. Next is the minutes. Y'all were all sent the minutes. What's your pleasure on the minutes?
Motion to adopt?
Did you get that, Executive Director?
I believe so. The motion is to adopt.
Minutes?
Motion is to adopt the minutes. Commissioner Barker,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans, I apologize, he's absent. Commissioner Galvin,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
votes aye. Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
votes aye. Commissioner Levy,
Yes.
votes aye. Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
votes aye. Commissioner Melton, votes aye. Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn,
Yes.
votes aye. Commissioner West,
Yes.
votes aye. And Chairman Roberts,
Aye.
votes aye. The minutes are approved.
Okay, next is salesperson dealer appeals. And Maria, are you presenting that? Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Roberts. I believe we have the individuals present here today, so I'll just read a brief excerpt detailing their convictions, and then they will have an opportunity to come before the commission and answer any questions you all may have. Firstly, in the case of Mr. James Randall Justice, the relevant documented conviction is for statutory rape on December 1st, 2014. From the documents received by the commission, it appears that the applicant received a Class E felony and was ordered to 2 years in prison and 2 years supervised probation. This application may be denied under TCA 5517-14A1C until February 2nd, 2025.
Is Mr. Justice here? Would you like to come up and address us? Did you bring someone with you? Bring them on up with you also at this time. I'd like to hear from you on this conviction, and then we'll have questions from the commission.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This all resulted from I'm a former law enforcement officer. In 2014, there was a girl that went to our church that confided to me that her parents were physically and sexually abusing her. Of course, I had to report that to DCS, which I did. At that time, of course, DCS was going to remove her from her parents' home for 3 days for the standard hearing that was going to happen. And because of my former involvement with them and knowing I was former law enforcement with a clean record, they asked me if we would take her in to send her for a foster home for the 3-day period, which we agreed. The parents denied to have the 3-day hearing. So then DCS come back to us to ask us if we would, while all the legal matters are going on, be her custodial guardians. And me and my wife agreed because we thought we knew this girl. She was in our home for 15 months. During that 15 months, she had a court-appointed juvenile lawyer. She was with many DCS members over her parents' stuff case. She was with the local DA on many occasions, law enforcement officers, psychiatrists, therapists, many people in authority. And during that 15-month time, every one of them always asked her the question that, we would in law enforcement, tell us about the people you're living with. How do they treat you? Is there any complaints, anything else? And throughout that entire 15-month period, she told every one of them the same story. Love them, best parents I've ever had. I get in fights with their daughter some, and they did bicker. We had a minor daughter at the time that she bickered with quite a bit. And so for 15 months, that's the way it was. As time went on, we found out through therapists and psychiatrists and stuff that she had some pretty severe mental problems. But she would always find a way to sabotage it so she wouldn't stay with one long enough to get a definitive diagnosis as to what was going on. One of her therapists did say, put on record statement that she was a pathological liar. It got to a point where she had brought drugs in our house. While we weren't home, she had brought boys in our house and had sexual relations with them. And it got to a point where we realized we couldn't control her, could not do what was best for her. So we approached DCS about, we need to do something about this. She had already picked out where she wanted to go. which was a little boy from her school, his house with his mom. And DCS denied that, and it was after that denial that she made the accusations against me that I had raped her and stuff, and she said that it started the second month that she was in her house. And unfortunately, from being in law enforcement, I can tell you, and Charlie that I've got with me that's now with us, he just retired 26 years in law enforcement. And unfortunately, when these accusations are made, you're guilty until proven innocent. We found that many, many times. The DA, they threw actually 10 charges at me. It was 5 statutory rape by an authority figure, 5 sexual battery by an authority figure, and we fought it. There was nothing but this girl's story. That's all they had. There was no other evidence, and we fought it as long as we could until the DA, as they normally do in these cases, as I saw at my time in law enforcement, they decided to offer a plea deal. If you'll just plead guilty to 1 count of statutory rape, we'll give you 2 years probation and be done with it. And I felt like at that time, my wife and daughter were, it was a nightmare for them, what we were going through, because all they could think of is, this was about the time that the Me Too movement was going on, and believe me, I will tell you now, I believe that every allegation should be investigated. I've always felt that way. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But unfortunately, we live in a society now where there's a rush to judgment without even reviewing the evidence. And I can tell you, and I believe that Charlie would concur with this, we've saw a lot of innocent people get some raw deals just based on accusations. And in these cases, it's been my opinion and the opinion of most of my brothers and sisters in law enforcement that in these cases of sexual abuse, you are guilty until proven innocent no matter what you do, unless you have some definitive proof. So since I was looking, if they convicted me on all charges, if a jury did, I was looking at 30 years in prison, which would be an ex-law enforcement officer being accused of what I was. I wouldn't have lasted there. I took their plea deal of 1 count of statutory rape, 2 years probation, just to get the ordeal over with, because I thought at the time that was my best option. And I served my time without any hiccups at all. They never had a problem out of me. I have since, integrated back in society. I've never had a problem. And that's kind of where the story is. That's why everything happened.
Questions from?
I have a few questions for you.
Yes, please.
Had you been in trouble prior to this event?
No.
Have you been in trouble since this event?
I have not.
Do you have any contact with the victim in this case?
No, I do not.
Those are all my questions.
Any others this time?
Do you have to register as an offender still?
I am on the registry currently. There is I think this is okay to say, I'm actually working with a lawyer at the Knox County Sheriff's Office who is working with the judge to actually get a court order to take me off the registry. That's not happened yet, but that is something they're working on.
Okay, that one question I've always had is if you have a family of shoppers in there and their children in the group that are shopping for a vehicle, how is that handled? I don't know how that works.
Well, I'm never alone with anybody. To let you know, this is, I work for Clayton Autos, and that's, some of you may know Joe Clayton, who was the original founder and owner of that, who passed away last year. I was his son-in-law. So technically, my wife owns the business. I'm the operations manager. I don't have a lot to do with sales, but it's something I felt like, applying for a sales license, if I ever had to be involved, I would have the license to do that. As far as your question, how it's handled, I never put myself alone with anybody anymore. This is just, it's given me a distrust for people, unfortunately, and because I used to be one of the most trusting people there was. And now, Charlie can attest to it, I just don't put myself alone, especially with children. And as a matter of fact, one of the things I did to protect myself is we have cameras all throughout our building with signs up, letting everybody know they're being recorded, because I never want to be back in the situation I was in.
Commissioner Norton, are you still married to the same person you were
I am.
married to in 2014?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is Chairman Roberts. You stated that all these people, psychiatrists, professionals, had statements about they always asked the young lady, how was the family? And then she goes back and says, in the very end, when she tries to charge you,
Yes, sir.
she says it started the second month. Well, she's got all that testimony saying that.
Exactly. Here's the problem with what happened. When I was at the sheriff's office, I went through all the training, how these cases are handled. Mandatory. Every year we had to take a refresher on them. And I can tell you point blank that the investigation was not handled anything like I was trained. One of the things with a victim like this, there's supposed to be a minor victim supposed to be taken to child help and a video forensic interview done. There was never one done. The only people that the detectives talked to were the two people after she left our house that she supposedly told her story to. They didn't go talk to not one psychiatrist, not one anybody. They cared not to talk to any of these people to find out what the truth is, and it's something that I saw in law enforcement. I believe Charlie would agree with me that when those accusations are made, most agencies, unfortunately, don't want to dig to find an answer they don't want. They've already made up their mind, and it's a horrible thing that happens every day. None of that was ever looked at to be.
Now, any other questions?
I have a question. Your current position is operations manager, correct? And what license are you applying for?
Sales license.
Why would you be going from operations to sales?
Well, it's not that. My wife and her brothers own the company, and eventually my wife's going to own this particular part of it all at once. Since my father-in-law died, he owned the whole thing. They're splitting it apart. And it's just one of those things as operations manager. If right now, as we all know, the employment situation in this country is horrible right now. A lot of people not wanting to work, and we're having a hard time finding good salesmen. So it's one of those things, if the few we have are busy, I wanted to be able to fill in if I needed to. That's the reason I'm applying for the license.
Anything else for him?
Commissioner Galvin, did the investigator or people talk to your wife regarding this investigation, and what was her comment? And the other question is, the girl who accused you, where is she now? Does anybody know that, or
Okay, on your first part, the investigator, number one, he called myself and wanted to interview me, and I told him that I'd be glad to put him with my lawyer and set something up. After I had a lawyer, they never wanted to talk to me. He called my wife, wanted to talk to her. She said, sure, I'll come in with my lawyer. They never wanted to interview her. Also, I will say in this time, again, I had a minor daughter in the house, and my question was always, if I was this monster that I was made out to be, nobody from DCS, the sheriff's office, or any other agency ever came to check on my minor daughter that whole time, which just as a father bothers me, because if it was somebody else, I would think that would be something they would do. As far as my wife, one thing I'll put in there, one reason that if she'd ever had a doubt, and she told me she never did, one of the statements that this girl made was that my wife walked in on us. If my wife had walked in on us, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys today. I can tell you that point blank. But my wife knew right then everything she said was a lie, because it never happened. As far as the girl, I have heard that she's in Cleveland, Tennessee, but I don't have a clue. None of my business. I've not kept up. I've not cared. I've not wanted to know.
I have a question. This is Commissioner Lee. Where were you employed at in law enforcement?
I was at Knox County Sheriff's Office. I was a reserve officer there. At the time, I actually had the highest volunteer hours there.
That concludes your part of it. Can we hear from who you brought? Would you identify yourself and what position you hold?
Yes, sir. My name is Charles Beard. I'm retired law enforcement, 5 years actually.
What can you reflect on this case?
The case itself, I've known Randy for 20 plus years. I'm sorry, James, but I know him as Randy. He was actually the best man at my wedding. I've actually lived in his house. I lived up here for several years. my ex-wife and I were talking about trying to reconcile our marriage, get back to Florida. It didn't work out down there, so I had to move back up here and actually lived with him for approximately almost 6 months. I spent a lot of time around him. The case itself, when all this happened, is he actually spoke to me because I was currently in law enforcement at that time down in the state of Florida, and many hours over this, and kind of the same conclusion. Today's world, we're judged before we ever get into a courtroom, and I've seen it on multiple occasions. And for a person that was in his position to go to court, I hate to say he didn't have a choice in the matter to plead guilty to that particular charge, but had he went to court, he would have already been found guilty before the trial ever began.
Questions for? What do y'all want to do on the license?
I make a motion that we grant the license.
Commissioner Jackson, second it.
Further discussion? Let's have a roll call vote on that, Executive Director.
Motion to grant licensure to Mr. Justice. The motion was made by Commissioner Vaughn, seconded by Commissioners Melton and Jackson. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Commissioner Galvin?
No.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer?
Yes.
Commissioner Levy?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee?
Yes.
Commissioner Melton?
Yes.
Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Roberts.
Yes.
You have voted to grant licensure. Mr. Justice, we will be in touch with you, and we will send you an electronic copy of your license initially, and then you'll get the paper one in the mail.
Recovering from appendectomy surgery, so that's why she couldn't be with us here today. But she wanted to convey my, her sincere appreciation for y'all hearing the appeal. So,
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Next is, you want to tell us about that, Maria?
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Michael Seferati, I hope I'm saying that correctly. The documented conviction is for theft, unlawful taking over $500. From the documents received by the Commission, it appears that the applicant received a Class A misdemeanor. This application may be denied under TCA 551714 A1C until September 12, 2028.
Is Mr. I don't know if I can say it.
Seferati?
Seferati? Yeah, that sounds right. Come on down and bring your associate with you and tell us about your charge and, why we should give you a license.
It's Seferetti, closer than most. Thank you. Franco Turbino from Sarah Chevrolet is with me. I owned a restaurant and bar and Northern Kentucky, and with immediate success, I was a lawyer and knew I had an interest in.
Do you mind speaking into the microphone? It's harder to hear you back here.
Sorry about that. Is that better?
Much.
All right. Did you hear anything?
No.
Okay. So they knew I had an interest in the building next door because I believe that you need a patio to survive summer in that business. We signed a 5-year purchase agreement, not a lease option, but it was an actual purchase agreement. We waived our rights for the LLC to buy this building. We took possession of it. We were not going to use it as a bar. It was going to be, as a restaurant. It was going to be more of a bar. I put $10,000 into the roof, $1,000 into painting the front of the building, and $30,000 into a patio. While doing that, I sold a few pieces of the restaurant equipment into in the building to fund that. Everything was fine during the lease. When we finally went out of business, we got in some tax trouble. They came after me and ended up charging me stealing that. Like it should have been civil.
Questions?
Commissioner Vaughn, I have a few questions. Did you have any legal issues before this occurred?
Absolutely not.
Have you had any issues since then? And have you made restitution?
I'm about 2/3 of the way. I have a letter from the state of Kentucky. Assuming this would work out, I'm going to cash out my 401k, pay the balance, and I actually have a letter from Kentucky saying that they are going to lift my probation once that's paid in full 2 years early.
Questions? Not, can we hear from your associate? Tell us your name and what your relationship is.
I'm Franco Durbina. I'm the operations manager of Sarah Nashville, and I'm one of the gentlemen that hired him. We did a full reference check on him from his previous 2 or 3 jobs. We also did a check with General Motors. General Motors has a certifications that you need to do, and CSI scores with the customers and everything, and we verified all that, and everything was in high regards with everything. And that's why I'm here with him. I'm just trying to help him.
Not, is there a motion to grant a license or not?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Further discussion. Executive Director Lawrence, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. The motion to grant licensure to Mr. Cefaretti, the motion was made by Commissioner Barker, seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson? Aye. Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levy?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts.
Aye.
The motion to grant licensure is adopted. And again, Mr. Cefaretti, we will email you an electronic copy of your license and then have the hard copy in the mail. You should get that email today, as long as we have an email address. And if you don't mind, if you're concerned if we have it or not, if you'll see me after the meeting and make sure I get it. Okay, thank you so much.
Maria, will you tell us about the next candidate?
Certainly. Thank you. Finally, we have Ms. Sarah Askew. The documented conviction is for theft of property in the amount of between $1,000 and $10,000. This conviction was on February 25th, 2013. It appears that the applicant received a Class D felony and was sentenced to 4 years in prison and 4 years supervised probation. This application may be denied under TCA 5517-14A1C until July 1st, 2024.
Hey, Ms. Eskew, come on to the podium if you don't mind, and bring your associate with you. Should we grant you a license?
This charge was caught in 2013. I was only 18 years old. The charge was caught because my boyfriend at the time and his friends, my son was 3 years old at this time, so I worked a full-time job. I was going to school. I had a boyfriend. He liked to hang out with his friends during the day. I didn't think anything about it when he called me one night and asked me to pick him up from my friend's house. They were playing video games. My car was caught leaving the scene of a burglary. I was 18, I was a kid, and they told me that I could be looking at 25 years. So I pled out to a felony not knowing what I was doing. I ruined my career. I was in nursing school. I graduated with a good GPA. This charge has ruined my entire life, and it's been almost 10 years now. All I want to do is be able to move forward, and Wyatt Johnson Toyota took that chance on me. And they believe in me, and they made me believe in myself. And I just want the opportunity to show them that I'm not who I was 10 years ago.
Questions from the commission?
I have a few questions. Always. Were you in trouble any before this event occurred? Have you been in trouble since this happened?
I caught a misdemeanor assault charge in 2018 over a family dispute. Other than that, no.
Make a restitution for any kind of theft that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you receive any stolen property from this burglary?
It was in my car when the police found us. they put the duffel bag when I picked them up was placed in my trunk. And this is my boyfriend and his friends. I didn't think to get the duffel bag out of the trunk or to make sure they had it when we got in the house. The police showed up the night of, and the duffel bag was in my trunk.
Are you aware that they were burglarizing
No,
the
ma'am.
place?
I would not have shown up. My baby was in the back seat. I would not have went.
Are you still together with this boyfriend?
No,
Do you have any contact with him?
none. I've been married for 5 years now, happily. I have no contact with anyone that was involved in the case.
Commissioner Norton, how long have you been employed with Wyatt Johnson, and what is your current position?
Sales consultant, and I've been there since September 29th of this year.
Questions? All right, let's hear from your character witness you brought with you. Tell us your name and what you do at the store.
My name is Jeff Joyner. I'm a general sales manager. Been with Wyatt Johnson for 21 years. I'm actually one of the managers that hired her. When she came in, she had told us her story. She was honest up front, which obviously in our, in our occupation, honesty and integrity is very important with us here, especially with our leadership and our organization. And she never hid anything from us. I listened to her story. I was 18. I've got things in my past that I'm sure I wasn't proud of, like a lot of us may have here. So she's been with us for a month. She's done a great job fits in with the team. I've met her family, so I mean, I think we're lucky to have her more than anything else. But the last thing we were going to do is hold something against her that she had done. Things happened in the past, and like I said, I love to keep her on the team. She's a great asset for us here. Just in the 30 days we've had her, she's been a good asset for everybody that's leadership for us here. So.
Questions?
I have questions, Commissioner Norton, for Sarah, if I could. Could you please tell the Commission what you've done previous to coming to work for Wyatt Johnson, what kind of employment you've had over maybe the last 3 years?
Yes, sir. For the last 2 years, I own my own company. I did the custom crafts, like custom tumblers and stuff, out of my house. And before that, I helped run my husband's detailing business. I wasn't able to find employment because of this charge. I couldn't find anyone to take a chance on me, and I actually applied on Indeed for a small family-owned dealership. And when I pulled up to the address they gave me, it was Wyatt Johnson Toyota.
I'd like to make a motion we grant the license.
Second.
Further discussion? Executive Director, would you call the roll?
Motion to grant licensure to Ms. Eskew was made by Commissioner Vaughn and seconded by Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Levy?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Lee?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
Votes aye. You will be granted your license. You're going to make me cry. We will email you a copy. And excuse me. And again, if you will make sure that I have that email address so I can get it to you, and then we'll mail your hard copy in the mail.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, next is the Director's report.
Goodness, I hope you've all had a chance to look at the report that's in your packet. We've had an uptick in dealer applications and licensures. Overall, the active licenses are pretty much the same as the last meeting. I am thrilled to say that our number of complaints is significantly down. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago about our complaints that have gone past 180 days, and I believe there may have been a total of 6. Our legal team has just really stepped up to the plate. Erica and Stuart have done a phenomenal job in trying to get some of these long, drawn-out cases to some sense of closure, and I'm really, really pleased with that. You have the total revenue from the annual sales report that appears there. Again, as always, I'm very proud of my team. We have a good satisfaction rating. It's 97%, but it's really more like 100%. People don't bother to fill out those little comment cards, but I'm very, very happy with my team. One note, we do have one individual who's leaving, and this Friday will be his last day, so we'll be looking to hire somebody else to do dealer applications in his place. But as usual, Barry, has everything under control and steps up to the plate, and all the team pulls together to sort of fill in the blanks. Let's see, I think that's all. I don't have final numbers for our financial report yet, but I'm hoping to maybe by the end of next month. And at that time, what I'd like to do is reach out to the chairman and the chair of our audit committee and maybe have an audit committee meeting so we can go over the financials and just see where we are to date. But everything looks good. As you know, the legislature approved last week, I'm probably stealing Maria's thunder, the mega site deal in Blue Oval City in West Tennessee for the manufacture of electric batteries for electric cars for the Ford plant. And we're excited about that. I think it's going to bring a lot of economic uptick to the economy. And boy, I'm just tongue-tied. But anyway, the legislature approved that, so we look forward to moving on from that. And other than that, that's about all I have.
Do we have a motion to adopt the director's report?
So moved.
Any further discussion? Can you call the roll?
Yes, sir, and I think we'll go ahead. I've asked legal counsel, and they have told me.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Director's report is adopted. The legal report, Erica?
Thank you, Chairman. We have quite a few changes that I'm going to read, but there's nothing major. It's pretty basic changes. So number 16, we are going to close that one. Number 28, we're doing a letter of warning to the dealer and the manufacturer. Number 30, we're going to close and refer to the Tennessee Department of Homeland Security. Number 43, close and flag. Number 54, close. Number 57, close and flag. Number 70, close and refer to the Department of Safety, the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security. Number 73, refer to the appropriate county clerk. Number 87, also refer to the appropriate city clerk. Number 88, close and flag. Number 95, refer to the Department of Revenue and the appropriate county clerk. Number 120, refer to the appropriate city clerk. And that is all of the changes.
We have a motion to adopt the legal report with the changes.
Action motion.
Commissioner Vaughn, second.
Further discussion? Would you call the roll on that? The legal
Motion
report
to
with
adopt the legal
changes.
report as amended was made by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is adopted.
Okay, legislative updates. Maria?
Thank you. I do not have any updates besides, Denise mentioned the Ford factory. That's a huge thing, but no other updates at this time. So it doesn't require a vote.
Committee reports. Audit committee, we didn't meet. Rules committee, we just handled that. So that's done. New business. If not, we've got something under old business. Do you Who wants to handle that for us?
I can handle that.
Okay.
So this is related to a matter, the respondent is Johnson City Nissan, and the respondent has signed a consent order for, and has paid a $10,000 civil penalty for various advertising violations. You should have that signed consent order in your material. It lays out on page 2 through 3 the details of the advertising violations. And the commission had voted to, on top of the civil penalty, to have the respondent appear before you to discuss the remedial steps they've taken to bring their advertising into compliance and answer any questions you have. So their attorney is here as well, Rod Fields, and you can go ahead and come up.
I'll let Mr. Gropp speak on behalf of the dealership, but before he does, I just wanted to take the commission through what they've done since the violation and the proposed consent order. I met with Mr. Gropp and the general manager at the dealership on no less than 3 occasions to specifically review not only what was contained in the consent order, but the actual rules governing advertising that the commission has set out. They also took the opportunity to come here to this building and meet with representatives of the commission and their council, and we specifically reviewed all those specific items. They got some education, not just from me, but from the fine folks here that helped them out. And then since that time, they've engaged me to review any new ads. Anytime they've got a new program, a new structure, that information gets forwarded to me so that I can review. And of course, if I have any questions, then I know I can contact the folks here to review those issues. The only other thing I wanted to add before Mr. Gropp answers any questions that you may have is that I think the Commission's rule adoption just here today will go a long way in helping them and some others deal with how to operate in this environment. The add-on stickers and all that type of stuff, I think has been dramatically impacted by what you've done, and I think it'll be a lot more streamlined for them and everyone else to operate in the future. So we do thank you for that. This is Mr. Gropp.
Hello. Yeah, as Mr. Field said, we've had multiple meetings kind of discussing all the issues that were brought to our attention, and we made the adjustments. And then for our store's new. We've just been open not even 2 years, and so we are we've retained Mr. Fields for the things that we're doing now, and then also for any future adjustments or changes we want for advertising to make client. I just want to know what the rules are, all of them. Do what they were supposed to, and that's always been the case. Just a few things that we weren't very clear on, and so we've made the adjustments, and we'll make the necessary adjustments moving.
Questions from?
I have a few questions. Who is responsible at your dealership for placing advertisements?
Well, I'm involved in that, myself and my general manager.
What's his experience in the automotive industry?
At least 20 years, 20 plus years in the car business, our automobile industry.
But some of that was from another state. He's
yeah, he was out of Georgia and Pennsylvania, so. I've been in the auto industry 37 years and 25 in Tennessee.
You're familiar with the laws of the state of Tennessee?
Yes. There was some areas evidently that were, they weren't gray. I mean, without going into all the details, wording that was not exact per se, and we just made the changes as we were told.
Have you made yourself familiar with any kind of issues that you've had in the past? Made it clear that
Oh, yes.
you're
All
not
the
making the
changes
same
have been
mistakes?
made, all of them.
So you're no longer violating?
100%. Yeah, just dot the i's, cross the t's, so we made sure. Absolutely, 100%.
Mr. Norton, Mr. Gropp, are you the owner of Johnson City?
I am.
Nissan, 100%?
I'm a partner with another gentleman.
Okay. Involved day to day?
No, he's out of Atlanta. I'm the day-to-day person.
What percent do you own?
25.
Okay. You aware of these?
Very.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to know, what did he say? What did he say to you? Is he? I'm assuming he's a car dealer as well.
He is. Yeah, he just said, get it straight, get it right, find out what the rules are, the way they want it. Just the very things. We think one and the same. We've been partners together for several years, but as I said, there was just a few things that slipped under the radar, and we made the changes when they were brought to our attention.
Appreciate you being here today, but I can remember the last meeting we had. It just seemed like a blatant disregard to us, and we felt like we got the thumb. That's the reason you were asked here today to speak with us. We didn't feel like you were complying. It seemed like the fine was pleasant to you, and we didn't appreciate the fact that you didn't comply sooner. So that's why we asked you to come here today, and we appreciate you coming here to explain yourself.
Absolutely. We wanted to be here. I've been doing this a long time. I want to comply. I just wanted to know what the rules were, and it was a little bit frustrating for me, to be honest. And I want to comply. Like I said, I've been a #1 volume dealer from California all the way here, and so I try to do it by the rules. You can't do that without following the rules. I just wanted to make sure I understood, and I feel like we make every effort to do that. And there were some things that were a little cloudy, but with Rod's help and communicating with you all, I think we've got it where everybody should be hopefully satisfied, and we're just trying to do it. And as I said, and I apologize for my frustrations. Like I said, I want to do it right. You have no idea. I don't wear a halo, but I try really hard to make it right. So,
Mr. Chairman Roberts, do you feel like now you've got a good understanding of the rules now for advertising?
Oh, yes, sir.
And the proposed changes.
I'm
Do you
sorry,
understand
I'm
them?
sorry, I'm leaning because I don't hear very well. My left ear is much better. Can you say that again, sir?
Do you feel like you've got a good understanding of the rules presently and the ones that we proposed today?
Absolutely, yes, sir. And
Well, we're going to hold you to them.
Yeah, absolutely, and I want you to.
Okay.
And Mr. Fields knows I've known Rod a long time, and he knows I want to follow the rules, 100%.
There are several guides.
I'm sorry?
There's several guides that you can also get that would help you clarify the rules for the state of Tennessee. So I would strongly suggest investing in that and getting involved in your association so that you do comply.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
A quick question, Scott. Did you get you and Mr. Fields, have you instituted these changes? I know in the Johnson City store, but you've got multiple stores. Have you been able to kind of take this template and hit the other store? Okay.
Yes, sir, 100%. Cool. In fact, we blanketed everything to make sure that was covered. Yes, sir. Good
Commissioner
question.
Barker, are you
Thank
currently a member of the Tennessee Automotive Association?
I'm sorry, which association?
Tennessee Automotive Association. Are you a current member?
No, sir.
Okay. I would highly recommend looking at that. That is a great organization that all of us, or the majority of the people that I know, keep you in compliance if there's ever any, quote.
Well, definitely.
Anything else? Do we need to take any action on this? Okay.
No.
That concludes it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Nothing else in old business. We just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
No discussion, I know. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Not a chance.